Good evening, everybody. So today we're going to go over the Twitter and Storybooks Watson Analytics functionalities, and I'm going to answer your questions. And this presentation is going to be recorded, so here is the agenda for tonight. And I'm going to remind you a little bit about the team folders where you should be saving your team files, since your assignment 5 is a group assignment. We're going to talk about Twitter, we're going to talk about the storybooks, and more. I'm going to be answering your questions and so on. So now let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Share my screen. There we go. So I'm going to start. First of all, to get started, I want to show you something really important here. I want you all to make sure that you are able to access folder for your team. So when you click on the shared, make sure that you see a folder for your session. You should be able to see only the folder for your session. Okay? So, for example, suppose that you're enrolled in 9040, you should be able to see the study group, right? Suppose that you're team 1 member. If you don't see this, I want to make sure that you let your professor know or let me know, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of it, all right? So this is important. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over, and one more important thing is that nobody should be saving data in a root folder. I mean, so everything that's in here, everything that's out of the place, it's going to end up in the trash, right? It's going to be deleted, and there's no recycle bin. So be careful, right? Now, let me go ahead and go over how to import data from Twitter. Basically, as you already may know, Twitter is a social media site where people chat about topic. And the post could be the initial post, or it could be response, right? That's called retweet. And the purpose is to analyze who is discussing the topic and the topic sentiment. So sentiment is another word for the sort of like a tone, right? Positive emotion, negative emotion, or neutral or unknown, right? So this is what we're going to do. Now I'm going to click here, new data, right? Instead of importing the sample data or instead of a local file data, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Twitter. Now, what I need to do is I need to enter the hashtags here. And one thing that I noticed is that the hashtags are case insensitive. They're not case sensitive. In some programs they are, but here they're not, right? So let's search about, I already did a search about your museum. I will show it to you tonight. But let's search about another college. For instance, UMBC, right? I want to know what people say about the school. And I can include as many hashtags as I want, but I just put one, right? And I put a hash, and I put what I want to search for, right? And you can enter up to 10, but if you want to put more than one, you have to put a space, right? Now here, I want to specify the language, and let's just leave it all for right now. And here, I need to specify the time. Just for right now, just for a moment, let's leave it 1 week. And here, it's showing me the name of the data set that's going to be created, right? By default, it's matching the name of the hashtags that I entered. Okay, so now I'm going to do here, I'm going to do show estimate. This is important. Before you load data, you want to see the estimate, right? So here, 18. I think it's not enough, right? But why did I say that we need to look at the estimates? Take a look at this. Let me just do it for the demo purposes. 2000. Actually, I want to do it. Let's do 2012, right? I want to show you what's going to happen. Show estimates. Wow, do you see that? How long do you think it's going to take me to load? And am I going to go over the file size limit? I might, because I think there is a file size limit. So let's go ahead and change this let's change the year to 2015, right? And let's see what happens. Show estimates, right? 823. Well, I'm gonna go a little bit less because, and the reason is because I don't want it to take a long time to load. I want it to load quickly just for the demo purposes. So let me pick December 31st of the last year, right? And let's look at the estimates. Oops, it's still 180. So let me change this year to 2016. And this is very important. I have to put the date. You want to make sure that your date is valid, right? Of course, right now, see this is a problem, right? If I do now, see this, I got an error. Verify that the start and end dates are valid, right? Because I entered invalid date, so I have to put 28, right? If I want, okay, this is valid, that's good enough, right? We want to make sure that we put a valid date, and you want to have the end date after the start date. Let's see, and let's go ahead and click import. Okay, let's click import. Import. So now it's going to take a while. Wait, it didn't click. So now it's going to take a while, but in the meantime, take a look. I was running the UMUC search, right? And it was showing me, the little bird indicates that the data set came from Twitter, right? So let's close this out. Little bird means it's from Twitter. And again, I have a data quality score, and I have my file name in here, and I have a date when the file was imported. It was imported today, right? So it's still taking to load, right? It's still processing, but while it's doing it, well, I can go ahead and show you the UMUC data. So basically, oh, it's finished, good. What we could do is, we could do the same operations that you have been doing with data so far, right? So let me switch this. I switched this to the list view. Okay, so here it is, UMBC. If you notice that I click on my ellipses, oops, and I get the same options, right? I guess apparently this way it's better. Now let me see. Okay, I changed the zoom, so now it's going to do it. Look at this here. I have ellipses, right? And when I click on the ellipses, I have the same menu, something similar. I can delete, but be careful, there is no recycle bin. I can rename it, and move allows me to move this to the subfolders that I may have, or move also lets me share. It also lets me share, right? And replace is basically what it does is that suppose that I want to run it on a data in a different time frame, so I can do that, right? And refine, basically for the refine, we can preview the data and we can apply filters to data, right? So let me click on refine because I want you to see how the data looks like. And what I did today, I found a nice reference where it explains, and we're going to be provided this link, and this reference explains the structure of the data set, right? The structure of the Twitter data. So you've got the author name, right? And basically the whole idea is that it tracks the information about the author. The author's location, such as country, and the tweet type, is it a post or it's a share? For instance, I could be sharing the post, I could be sharing the data on Twitter from another site, right? And post it from, so for instance, sometimes you can post the tweet, you can tweet from your local PC, or you can do from your tablet or from Android. So it's tracking it here. It's going to track the post time, and it's going to track how many posts you have as an author, and it's going to track how many retweets your post gets, right? This is all your information, and here, based on the text, it's trying to identify the post tone, right? And if the post is related to the hashtag and how related it is, and here it's timing, right? The time when it was posted. So So just immediately I'm thinking about it, just think about it, what I could do with it. Since I have a time, can't I do the chart that shows the number of posts per month perhaps, or number of posts per day? Well, I could do something like that, right? Can't we count the posts per country, or perhaps the number of authors per country? Or I can see who is more likely to post positive comments, right? I can see who is more likely to post negative comments. And I can look at it by gender, and I can look at it by language, and I can look at it by author city, right? So let's go back to Watson Analytics. See this? Here is the data. And I could also do, if I want to, I could filter it, right? I can filter the author country. For instance, suppose that I'm not interested in unknown. I can just, oops, see what I did? I just selected unknown. But what if I don't want unknown? I can invert. Do you remember? I want to select everything but unknown. So doing that, right, I defined my filter, and I'm going to close it out, and I can just save it, right? This is the save button, remember? So basically, if I want to, I can do my groupings, I can add my hierarchy, I can add my calculated columns, I can do almost anything that I have been doing with other data sets, right? So now it is saving, right? We need to be a little bit patient here. So basically what I did was I filtered it. I want my country to be known, right? So if you look at it, I'm just thinking about a variety of ideas. I can do the map visualization, right? If I have countries outside the United States, or I could do the time chart, right? So now what we'll do, let's close this out. I'm going to return to the landing page. And let me go ahead and I'm going to create a discovery, right? So notice that it saved it as the data. It's because I modified it, that's why. You no longer see that it's coming from Twitter because I made change. That's why. But let's go ahead and let's create a discovery. Let me show you. And what I could do is, another one way to create a discovery is to do this. I click here on New Discovery, and here I can just select my data, and I want UMBC, right? And I'm going to click OK, and I want it in the personal folder. Very important. We're not saving anything to the root of the share folder, right? It's because we have to share the space with other sessions. Okay, so we're going to click OK. Now what it's going to do is, it opened up the new discovery workbook, right? UMBC. And what I could do, I can ask my questions, but something to keep in mind is that since I opened up the discovery, any questions that I ask is going to apply only to this data set, right? I'm not asking a question across all data sets. I'm asking it only for this specific data set, right? And take a look at this. Remember, when we were looking at the data, I said, hey, why can't I just plot the number of posts per day, right? So here it is. I can have my timeline, and I can post. I can do this visualization, can't I? Tweets over day by matching hashtag. Let's just try that. Let's see. So basically, there we go. So I see how many tweets I have per day, right? That's basically what I just did. So I have one tab in here. And since I want something that I remember, right? I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna add a descriptive name. I'm gonna put posts per day, right? Posts per day, right? So this is what I did. I did posts per day, right? So for a while, let's assume that I am preparing this project for the Board of University Education. Just make an assumption. So I want to present who talks about the college, And who's more likely to talk positive, right? Who's more likely to say negative? When did we have the peak? See, if you look at it here, right, I can see that at this point of time, I had the most posts. Here I had the least posts, right? So that's what you can do. You can analyze, you can find the time when users were the most active on the topic, right? Because I plot here the number of posts in a certain by day, right? Something like that. So isn't that nice? So that's my first visualization. And something similar, I get the suggested visualization, what I could do, right? So I can do the author favorite counts by day, or I can do all of this. I can select anything. I could do the author friend count by date posted, and so on, right? So now I can add another visualization, and here, now pay attention. I don't want to add any of the suggested visualization. I want to add my own. I can scroll down here and see that this is a map, right? I can click on my map here. Now what I need to do is I need to add data. I need to add my variables rather. To do this, see this? This is a data tray, right? And I have author country, so I'm going to drag it into the region, right? This is the author country. And what I want to do here is that I want to do the number of responses or number of posts. So let me see. We had a variable here called post count, right? Or retweet count. Let's do that. Retweet count. There we go. So now what it's going to do, it's going to build me the map. See this? Do you see? So we have people talking about UMCP. People are located in the United States, in Canada, and in India. And here, basically, the color code means the number of posts, right? So basically, what I did was I did the map visualization since I have a country variable, right? I have a country and I have a number of posts. So now what I'll do this, I'm going to name it posts by country, right? Exactly. So now I have my post by country. I have posts per day. Now what else do you think I can do? I can go back to my visualizations here and I can do another one. I can do, well, actually, my mistake, because I don't want to override this visualization. I don't want to override it. So I have to click on a new one. I had to add a new tab, right? And let's see. I can do, oh, I see what we can do. We can do the grid, right? We can do the grid. We can count the number of tweets by polarity, right? So the grid basically is do not do the counts. And here I can select my variable for the row, right? Or perhaps I can do post months. I drag it here, right? Then I can do the author, well, not the author state, but let's see, let's try to do the sentiment. I saw it. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do is it's a cross tabulation now. So over here I'm going to drag the sentiment, and in the middle I'm going to do the number of posts, right? So let's see. I'm going to get the tweets count now, right? So basically I just saw it, but what I'm trying to do is, or retweet count, there we go. So now I'm dragging it into the details. Alternatively, I could drag it here. So what it did was here, it's not what I wanted to do. It did an average, right? It did an average. So what I need to do is, I'm going to click in here, I'm going to fix it. Since I want to have the total number of posts, right, by sentiment, by month. This is what I want to do here. So let me click in here at the count, and let me go click here on ellipsis, and I'm gonna open the properties, and I'm gonna change this to the count, right? I'm gonna change it to the count, and I'm gonna close out. There we go. So what I did here, I just created this cross tabulation, and I want to show how many negative posts I had per month, how many neutral, how many positive, and here is the polarity is unknown, it could not find, right? So there we go, it's one of my visualization, and I'm gonna name it as posts polarity by month, right? This is what I did here, alright? So now let's do this. We have to save it, right? We need to save this discovery workbook. So I'm gonna click on this here. Oops, I'm sorry, here. Save as. Okay, and I'm gonna call it UMBC discovery, right? There we go. And I'm gonna go set save. Now here, since I'm saving it in a personal folder, I don't need to worry about, right? But if I was saving it into my team folder, I would have to make sure this is checked, because I want, if I'm saving something to my group folder, I want to make sure that the privileges are inherited from the privileges set on a group. And I did the configuration, right? I configured the privileges for the teams. All right, so let's go ahead and hit the save. All right, and it's a saving. So now what I did was I have discovery, and my discovery has 3 tabs, right? And what I did today, I strategically showed you how to do the visualizations that are not given to you by default, right? That are not given to you as recommended visualization. Right, so now what else you could do is I could click here, and I can change the color. I had several people ask me how to change the color, so let me go ahead and do this right now. Suppose that I like, what color do we like? Suppose that I like green, so I'll go ahead and change it to green, and now I have to save it, right? There we go. So you've got some options here. You can change colors, you can change opacity, and so on, right? So I'm gonna close this out, and several people asked me about the pie chart, so let's do that. I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna add another tab, and I'm gonna go back here, I'm gonna select the pie chart, and basically the pie chart is gonna show me part of the whole, right? And suppose that what I want to do is I want to show the proportion of the positive post, proportion of the negative, right? So what I can do is I can just drag this. Oops. Here we go. It let me drag it here. So now it's going to update, right? Sentiment and okay, so what I did was I did sentiment, and now I have to drag the counts. I have to find my retweet counts, right? I have to find my favorite column, retweet count. Oops. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, so basically what I did was here, take a look. The color code tells the post tone, right? Ambivalent, negative, neutral, positive, and unknown, right? And the slice size, right, represents the proportion of posts of that polarity. So now what I could do is, let me save this, right? And I'm gonna say this post polarity, right? Okay, So now what I can do, I'll show you, because here it's showing you the counts. I'm going to show you how to swap to percentages because I had those questions. So I can click on the format, right? And in here, there is an option. I can check percentages, right? So that's going to allow me to show the percentages instead of numbers, right? So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to save it. Now, what I'm going to do next is, before I can create my storybook, I have to create the discoveries, right? I need to create the discoveries first. So let's go ahead and let's close this. I'm going to close this. Oops, I'm sorry, I meant dashboards, displays, right? So I have to follow the steps. The first step is to load the data. I did, right? Next step is to have my discoveries. Next step is to create a display. I'm going to create a display right now. And one way to do that, I can just go ahead and I can click on new display in here, right? And I'm going to do the dashboard. And I'm going to say UMBC dashboard. One thing to keep in mind in here is that the dashboard can have more than one tab, right? And it's very important. You need to plan ahead of time, because when you start creating a storybook, every display is going to become one thumbnail, right? So if your dashboard has more than one tab, then you're going to have more than one tab on the thumbnail of the storybook. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So first, let's create a dashboard. Create. Now what I can do is, I have an option to select my layout. And let's see, I want to select my, suppose that I want to just select my map. So I'm just going to do one page here. And what I need to do is, I need to add my visualization. And I'm going to do personal folder. And I'm going to do the UMBC discoveries that I just created. I expanded. And what I want to do is, I want to add my post by country. So I have to drag, I can drag and drop. There we go, right? So if I wanted to, I could do my filtering, right? Everything that I have been doing in the past assignments. I could apply filters and I could play around with my properties and so on. But for right now, let's just go ahead and we can rename it as posts by region, right? This is what I did. So now what we can do is, let's say I want to create another tab. I'm going to add another tab here, right? And I'm going to do, let's do just one. And on this tab, I'm going to add post by, let's do post per day, right? Do you remember the graphics that I had? So that's going to be my second tab in here, right? And I'm going to rename it as post by day, right? So this is post by day. There we go. Now, I have two tabs in here right now, right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to save it. I'm going to click here to save it. And I want to save it in my personal area. And this is UMBC dashboard, correct? Save. Okay? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another dashboard, right? So here what I did, I had my post by regions, right? And I had posts per day. On the next dashboard, I'm going to do my post polarity, right? I'm going to do this. On the next one, right? Okay, so this one is going to give me the counts. And, oh, this one is a pie chart, right? And I want, yes. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and close this out. I'm going to close this. And I'm going to click on New Display again. And the reason I'm doing it is because each display is going to become a thumbnail. Each dashboard, rather, is going to become a thumbnail on my expert storybook. So let's call it UMBC dashboard 2, right? UMBC dashboard 2. I'm gonna hit create. And what I'm gonna do in here, let's do just one slide as well. And I want to do personal. Now, I want to show you something that you're not gonna see other users folder. Just keep that in mind. You're only gonna see personal and shared. I see other users because I'm an admin. You're gonna see just personal and shared. So just in case if that question comes up, I want to make sure that it's clear. So UMBC, and as you may remember, right, I had this post polarity. Let me drag and drop here. And this is my pie chart, right? I want to have my pie chart here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to name it as post polarity, right? So by the way, speaking of the dashboard, sometimes when you have a visualization such as decision tree, which is very difficult to take a screenshot of, what you could do is you could create dashboards, and you can put one visualization per page, right? And then your model is going to appear bigger. So that's one option. You can create this dashboard, and you can put just one visualization, right? That's a trick. Notice how my pie chart is bigger here. So I'm just showing you some tricks. So we're going to go save this. Save it, right? Or, yeah, that's right. I just save it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this, right? I'm going to close this. So now I have two UMBC dashboards. Suppose that I want to show this presentation to my supervisor, right? And suppose that I have 10 dashboards. How am I going to do that? Am I going to show one file at a time? Does my manager know at which dashboard to look at first? Does it help? Am I able to add notes? I'm not sure, right? So that's the reason we have a storybook. Storybook basically allows you to organize your dashboards, right? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to click on New Display, and I'm going to click on Expert Storybook. So basically now you're going to be an expert. You're going to share your findings with another user, right? So let's go ahead and let's call it UMBC Storybook, right? Because I created one for UMUC and this one, which is going to be UMBC, right? Expert Storybooks, and I'm going to click on Create over here, right? So what it's going to do now, it's going to open the empty storybook. This is a template, right? Here is a template. Save. Here, this is my name, and it inherits the name of the file. Here, I can add my description, right? So my user is going to know what they're looking at. Here, what I could, sometimes I need to learn how to type, right? What I could do if I wanted to, I can change my background, right? If I can change background, I could browse for the picture, right? I'm not gonna do it right now, but this is what I did for another storybook that I'm gonna show you, right? But I picked the UMUC logo for another storybook that I did today as a practice. So now let's do this. Let's save this. Now, something very important to keep in mind here, I'm going to be adding the displays, right? Over here, I'm going to be adding my displays. I need to keep in mind the order in which I'm adding the displays, because this is the order that my manager is going to see them in, right? So what I can do here, I click on displays, and what it did over here, it loaded all displays that I can access. And look at this, some of them are from the shared folder, right? So it's gonna give me everything. So that's the reason I would strongly recommend that you put a descriptive name, right? So that way I can just look and I can find it easily. And what I want is this. I want this dashboard, right? Look, what I need to do, I need to just drag and drop. Now, I realize that my dashboard has several tabs. We cannot pick just one tab. We have to input the whole dashboard, right? We have to input the whole dashboard. So now what I could do is, I could add the thumbnails, right? I can click here, tap to add the thumbnails, and basically Watson Analytics just provides me, I can just choose any thumbnail that I like, right? But I believe in this dashboard, I believe we have a chart, right? Number of posts. Well, let's just pick a chart right now. And I'm going to select choose, right? And what I could do is I could click on this just to, okay. I could click on it to preview it, but first let's go ahead and save it. Or I could also add the annotation. Oh, to preview it, I forgot. Okay, I forgot to show you something. See these eyeglasses? See these eyeglasses? Same as dashboard. The storybook has two modes. It can be in a view mode and it can be in an edit mode. I cannot see my visualization right now because I'm in the edit mode. I would need to swap to the view mode. Now I will be able to see my visualization. Now look at this. Expert tab findings, right? So this here is considered an expert tab finding. I clicked on my. See this? This is my visualization. This is my visualization. As you may or may not remember, a few minutes ago, I mentioned that if your dashboard has multiple tabs, right, they're going to appear on the same thumbnail. This is what I meant. See this? I have my two tabs in here. So when you are creating your dashboard for the storybook, keep in mind that if your dashboard has two tabs, your thumbnail is going to have two tabs, right? There we go. Now what I'm right now in a view mode, right? So I cannot edit anything. What I could do here, I can click on edit mode, and I can add annotations, right? That took me back to my home page. And to add an annotation is a brief description of what this page shows, right? So I can click here, and I can add basically a general message, right? This is the first page of my, right? And I can click here just to save it, right? What I could also do is I could add an annotation for specific visualization, right? I can add an annotation to specific visualization. Now here, what you need to keep in mind is that if you later on, if you use an option to change data, as you may remember, there is an option to rerun, right, to update the storybook, to update your expert storybook to a different data set, right? Your graph, your chart might look differently, right? So it's something to keep in mind, because if you put an annotation over here, right? I clicked over here, and I want to type this is the peak, right? If I rerun, if I update my data, right, there is a high possibility that I may not have a peak in here, right? So when we add annotations on the data itself, we need to keep in mind that it's highly possible that we might be updating the data, right? So let's go ahead and let's click OK for right now, right? So what I could do now, I could add the second thumbnail. Let's go back here, displays, and I'm going to pick my second dashboard and I'm gonna drag it here, right? And I could also pick my thumbnail and I can pick the annotation here, right? See this? Click on the thumbnail and let's just pick a pie chart because I have a pie chart. And I'm gonna click on choose. There we go. And always remember to save, right? I saved it. Now what we can do is, and let's close this out. And now suppose that, let me put it the view, right? I'm gonna view now. So right now, I'm gonna become a customer. I'm a customer right now. What I can do is, so here, I was presented with the findings. What I could do, this page right here, expert top finding. So every thumbnail in here becomes a top finding. And somebody who created this dashboard is an expert, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this, and I'm gonna just play it, right? And here, I'm just basically, see this is top finding 1 of 2. Do you remember? I said it's very important to pay attention to the order, right? My first thumbnail had this visualization, so this is top finding 1. To navigate to the top finding 2, I just click here, right? So this was my second thumbnail. And also, if you remember, I added the annotation, right? So if I click here, I think it should be here. Yes, it should show here. See this? If I hover, I see this, I see it. And the reason I see it is because I added the annotation, right? I added the annotation before. So basically, see this? It says UMBC dataset. Do you see this? I have an option to replace. I have an option to replace. Well, I see here it's giving me a warning. I'm not going to replace it, but this is giving me a warning that if I do that, it's going to affect this dashboard. But actually, let's click continue. I'm not going to actually do that, but I just want to show you what's going to happen. I can reuse the previous search criteria, or I can click on Twitter here and I can set the new date range, right? I can change the date range. Right? I'm not going to do it, but I'm just showing you the idea that I can update the date range, right? So let me go ahead and close this. I'm not going to do it. Let me return it here, right? So I could do that, but let me return to my home page. I'm going to show you what else I can do as an end user. Take a look at this. Do you see this? Ask a question. So I'm looking at this dashboard, and suppose that I got very curious, and I want to find something else, something that Yelena didn't present it. Is there something that Yelena may not have thought about, right? So I'm going to go here, I'm going to click on Ask Question, and I can go ahead and I can just type sentiment, and I click Enter, and I can see the options that's going to be presented to me. Starting points, now I have to scroll it, right? I have to scroll it. And what I want to do is, suppose that I want to find the distribution of the sentiment. Well, I just select something. But see this? I'm creating a brand new discovery. I'm using my storybook. I'm using the data in my storybook to create the new discovery. And here I'm creating the bar chart, right? Tweet count, and I'm creating my bar chart, right? And then what I could do is I could save it, and I'm gonna save it as another UMBC discovery, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and save it, right? So basically, this is the whole idea. I created a new discovery, so then I can use this new discovery to create another dashboard, right? And then I can use another dashboard to create another storybook, or to add it to existing storybook, right? So let's go ahead, let's close this out. Another UMUC discovery, I close it, right? So now, what I could do is, here I'm back at the display, right? So here, you see that this is my storybook, and those are two dashboards that I created. And I can just go ahead, I can keep going. New display, new dashboard, another UMBC dashboard, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit create, and I'm gonna just do one slide. And what I'll do is personal, right? And this is what it is. I'm just gonna drag and drop in here. There we go, right? And here I'm gonna just say another sentiment distribution, right? So now what I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and save it again. Save it, right? I saved it. So now what I'll do is I'm gonna close this out, right? Do you see what I did? I created another dashboard and I used the display. And how did I create a display? I did it through asking questions in the storybook. Closing this out, and here's my storybook. I'm gonna go ahead and I can add this, can't I? Oops. Now, remember it, there are two modes. I have to be in the edit mode. I need to be in the edit mode in order to add this. So I'm gonna scroll down, right? And I'm gonna go click here. This is my displays, and here it is, another dashboard. Oops, I have to drag and drop right here. There we go. So what I did was I just added value, right? I added value to existing display, and this thumbnail is smaller, right? So let's go ahead and we're gonna add the bar chart. Let's just add the bar chart and choose, right? So basically I can keep going and I can also add logo, right? So let's go ahead and save this. We save this, all right? So now what we'll do is I'm gonna show you what I mean by the logo. So let's close it. Let's close this one. And now let's go here, and this is a UMUC storybook. I just want to show you what I did earlier today. So what I did was I added UMUC logo as a background in here. And if you scroll down, I added a logo here, right? Did you see that little logo? I can add it here. And I could do the same thing. I can also ask questions, and I can just navigate through my findings, right? But here I have only one tab, and here what I did was I'm showing the distribution by the post polarity, right? Tweet counts per day by polarity. That's another idea for you. And let me click here. Here I'm just doing, here I have 4 visualizations, and I'm doing the sentiment breakdowns here. And if you remember that in each page of the dashboard you have a choice to select the layout, right? So here what I did was I did this is table, this is called table, and I wanted to do the counts, number of posts per sentiment type, and I wanted to do the sentiment count here. And this is another visualization here. And here I'm doing the drivers. What drives the sentiment polarity? What drives the sentiment, right? So that's basically what I did here. And I also added the annotations, and I can navigate back and forth if I'm in a view mode, right? So isn't that nice? So now let me go back to home page. And some of you may have seen that there is an option to publish, right? But don't worry about this option, because in order to publish your storybook, you need to have a Bluemix account. Bluemix is another cloud, so that's something to look forward to. When you get to the upper level courses, Data 650, you're gonna get familiar with another cloud as well. So now let's close this out, and I wanted to show you that there is a repository of the storybooks. I believe you probably had a chance to explore it already. Oops, here it is. Analytics Exchange page, right? So basically, Analytics Exchange page, it has an expert storybook repository and as well as a data set. This is a featured data set and expert storybooks. As you can see, this is a very new functionality. This is a recent functionality. Look at the date. And I can click on View On, and I can just browse. And I can pick anything that I like, and I can import it, right? So for instance, I like this, right? And right now, it's free, right? But make sure that it's free, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and import. Okay, and I'm going to hit import here. And here we need to be a little bit patient. It's going to import, but it's going to import the data set. It's going to import the dashboards, and it's going to import the storybook itself. So now this is very important, because if you delete the file, right, if you delete the data set, all visualizations become invalid. So make sure that you do not do this by accident. While it's loading, I wanted to point out something else. As you're working with the team, right, when you're sharing your storybook with the team, you also need to share the dashboards. You also need to share all dashboards, all displays, and the data set that you used, right? So let's do this. Let's close this out, right? And let's go ahead and take a look at what I imported. If you look at it, it's showing me that there is one data set and 4 top findings. And in fact, if I click here, it's showing me my data. Isn't that nice? I can preview my data just by clicking on that grid. Okay? So now let's close this out, and let's take a look at what it did here. In my personal folder, I already had a folder imported. If I did not, it would have created it. See this? It added this one. It added another folder, and the name of the folder is the same as the name of the storybook. So now I'm in the display tile, right? So when I click on this folder here, it's going to show me 4 dashboards that were imported. This is a dependency. It imported these 4 dashboards. And also, if I click on import it, this is where my storybook is. Now, to see the data, I would have to click on the data, and I would have to click on this folder. This is a data set, right? That it did. It imported this data set. And of course, I can always refine the data set. But when you refine it, be really careful, because if you remove a variable, and if that variable is used in a visualization, your visualization could become invalid, right? So now what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to share with your team. So for a while, just for this purpose of this demo, let's assume that I'm taking Data 610, and I'm enrolled in a session 1940, and I'm a member of Group 1. Let's just assume this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I want to share a display with my team, right? I want to share the UMUC tweets display with my team. What I can do is I have to click here on the ellipsis, right? And I'm going to have to select Move. Now, very important, right? First of all, you're not going to see all of these sessions. You're only supposed to see the session in which you're enrolled. I see it because I'm an admin, right? So you are a user, you're gonna see, right? Just pretend I'm a user, and I see this session. I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna expand it, and I'm not gonna see other teams. I'm only gonna see my team. I do this, and I'm gonna select move. Now, do not uncheck this. Keep it as is in this case, because what I did was I already configured that this folder is visible only to the group 1 members, right? Group 1. See this? So this student is part of the group 1, right? This is how I set it up. So this is available only to the faculty teaching the session, and it's available to me because I'm an admin, and it's also available to people who are taking a class, taking a session, and members of the group 1, right? So when I do this, I just click OK. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the folder. Oops. Nope. This is an error. I should not be opening it. Let's close this. So now, my group members are not an admins, right? Notice what I did. So I'm going to go to group here. Yes, I see my display that I just shared. There is a problem, and the problem is that display is utilizing the discovery, and it's utilizing the data, and discoveries and data are located in my personal area, right? Did I give access to them to my teammates? No, I did not. So when my teammate it will try to open this, they're going to be getting an error, right? My teammates are going to be getting an error. And let me see if I get an error. I don't, because I'm an admin. However, when my teammates open it, they're going to be getting an error. Why? Because they don't have an access to the data set. They don't have an access to this discovery that I used to create this display, right? I'm sorry, they're not going to have access to the, that's right, discoveries that I used to create this dashboard. Yes. So let me go ahead and let me close it. So this is something important to keep in mind, right? So what I should have done is, I should have also moved the associated objects to the group folder, right? So now suppose that I'm done. I don't want to share this with my team anymore. This is what you need to do. You need to click here, and you click move, and I'm going to move it back to my personal area, right? And when it comes to permissions, we need to be really careful because, trust me, I made a mistake once and I lost my admin rights. In error, I removed the admin rights from myself in error. So I had some work to do, right? So we need to be really careful because it's also possible that you lose access to your own data. If you're not careful, it's also possible, so be very careful and make sure that you understand it. And if you need help, do not hesitate to reach out, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do personal, and I'm going to do move, right? Now I'm going to get a warning. That's okay. It's telling me that I'm not going to be, that my group members are not going to be able to see this again. Okay. Now, something to keep in mind is that if I move my data, if I unshare my data, my teammates won't be able to see the displays anymore. Anything that builds on that data, they won't be able to access it anymore. So you need to make sure that you're sharing the data, right? And also, if you delete the data, that's it. Your display is going to be invalid, right? You're going to lose your work because there is no recycle bin. You would have to redo, right? Or unless Watson Analytics adds an option to reload the data, right? I'm not sure if it's possible in the dashboard at the moment. I would have to look, but that's something to keep in mind, right? Here, let me minimize this, right? Now, I'm going to remind you something, and I'm going to do something on purpose here. So I go ahead and open this, right? Now look at it, I open it, right? and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back to the landing page. Now I want to share it with my team. Move. See this? Do you see this? Why am I getting this error message? It's because I still have it open, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and close it. Right? I have to close this before I can share it, right? That's important. Something else to keep in mind is that I'm a group member and I'm gonna be a nasty group member. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go here, group 1. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do this. Well, trust me, I'm not gonna change anything, but oops, I cannot do it, right? Okay, cancel. Let me do this. I don't want to change anything that the team is doing. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and quickly share something with you. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna be nasty now. And I'll show you why. Okay, so let's do this. Let me go to the data and suppose that I want to share my Boston housing with the team, right? Share, group 1, move, right? I keep everything as default. Okay, so I am a group 1 member. I'm gonna go here, open, and I'm gonna go here, group 1, and I'm going to open this. I'm just gonna click here and I'm gonna do refine, right? I did refine, Boston housing. Okay. Oops, I selected rename. My fault. Refine. My fault. Okay. So what I did was I opened it, right? Oh well, now I'm just gonna close my browser. Suppose I'm nasty. I close my browser. Just imagine that I did that and left. But before I left, I did not close this, right? Even though I'm no longer logged in, right? That's it. I still have it open. Now, my teammate comes in, and my teammate is trying to open a file. And my teammate is going to be getting an error, right? I'm going to be nasty. And then my teammate is going to be calling me, hey, Yelena, are you currently modifying our file? I'm going to say no. I'm not logged in right now. I'm not at my computer right now. Well, but the problem is that I did not close my file before I logged in. So this is very important. We need to close all of the files before we log out, because even if you're not logged in, you still have that file. You still have it open, right? You still have a lock on that file. So your teammates cannot unshare it. Your teammates cannot make any changes to it, right? So this is something important to keep in mind, right? So now let me go ahead and close it. And now I'm going to be nice. I'm going to remove this from my, I'm going to unshare it. I'm going to remove it from the team's work. And thank you in advance for Team 1 to let me use their folder for this demo purposes. So I'm going to do personal, and I'm going to do it move, right? And I'm going to do OK. So I did not change anything that the team had, but I was just using their folder for the demo purpose, right? So I set up this group, right? And anything that's in this group, it's going to inherit the same permissions as this folder, right? It's because if I click in here, and if I click here, you'll see it. It's a default, right? So this is what I want it to be, right? This is what I want it to be. Correct. So make sure that you're not changing it, because it's highly possible, and I've seen it happen before, when a student lost access to their own work. So this is sad, but we want to make sure it does not happen, right? So I just reminded you what not to do. Okay, so let me go back to my personal area and let's see what questions we have. So I've been talking for about an hour and 5 minutes, so now I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk. Let me go back. I'm going to unshare and I'll go back to the slides. And let's see if we have questions. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and speak it up, or you can also type the question in the chat, whichever way it works for you. And while I'm waiting for the questions, let me go to the next slide here. This is basically how the Analytics Exchange page looks like, right? So I added it to the slide here, and this is a URL, and you can have the slides afterwards. And here I just put some resources for you on the Twitter, how to upload Twitter data. There is a YouTube video, and there is a link that I showed you about the structure, right? Yeah. This is just some documentation that you may find useful. That's for the Twitter. And then I have another page in here. This for the storybooks, right? You may find some of this helpful for the storybooks. There is some documentation, right? So I guess now it's time for questions and answers. Let me see. Is it possible to copy data set? Well, let me open the chat. Okay, the question is it possible to copy the data set pocket instead of moving to the shared folder? Copy? Well, basically what you could do is, yes, you can save it as a copy. This is an excellent question. I'm gonna do it. Will we need to use Access to compare for the assignments? Oh, to complete assignments? No. You don't need access to the Analytics Exchange to complete the assignments. However, you do have access to the Analytics Exchange to import the storybooks. You have access. What you don't have access is, you don't have access to publish your storybook. But this is not required. You have access to view the existing one, right? But you don't have access to add your own to it. So now I'm going to show you. This is an excellent question here. How to save it, to copy. So let me go back. I'm going to share my screen again. My screen. Okay. This is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to save a copy of this here. So I'm going to go here, click here. To save a copy, I'm going to do this, refine, right? And now, all right, I'm really team 1 in 9040 section. I really appreciate your permission to use your folder for the examples purposes, because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do this. I'm going to click here. I'm going to do save as. But here is a caveat. You need to have permission for the folder where you're trying to save. In your case, you will, because this is your team, right? So here's my group. What I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to say it. And I'm going to save it in a group folder here. Let's see if it follows. Save. Saving. It let me, right? So this is a copy, and I'm going to show you why, right? I'm going to show you why it's a copy. But this is an excellent question. I can save it. Yeah. I'm not quite sure if you can do it to the storybook, but you can do it to the data. And you might be able to do this to the visualizations. Let's see. But it's taken a little bit of time to save it. But while it's doing it, basically the whole idea is that, now it's possible to do. So there are going to be 2 separate copies of the data. The first copy is going to stay in your personal area, and the second copy is going to be in a group, in the Team 1 folder, right? So usually it shouldn't be taking that long, but well, let's hope it saved it. Not sure. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's close this out. Let's close this. Now take a look at this. How do I know that I saved the copy? In my personal, I still have UMUC, right? And let's see what's happening in a shared. I should see, if I did it right, I should see it. Yes? See this? This is what I shared with the team, right? I'm unable to see the group names. Okay, so what you could do is, do me a favor, please. Shoot me an email, right? And the session you're in. Oh, actually, I have a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet that lists a session for each user. I have a master list. So if you could tell me your first and last name, I'm gonna take a look in it. You need to be able to see only your session in which you're enrolled, and you need to be able to see your group. If I may have missed anything, okay, Rebecca Johnson, right? Okay, I'm gonna take a note, and I'm gonna take a look at it. I promise I'm gonna take a look at it after the demo. Okay? I'm gonna fix the permission. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now here is I'm gonna delete it, right? I'm gonna delete this. Okay, so you don't see your group either? Okay, you just let me know and I'm gonna take care of it. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this for right now. I'll check the permissions. So that's one reason that I wanted everybody to verify, right? I wanted you to verify, and then I go and I check on my end to make sure that you see it. And this is how you do it. You click on a shared, and you'll be able to see your session, only your session, and you're gonna click and you're gonna see your team folder. But I'm gonna take a look at it. It actually depends on what session you're in, because I have not done the study groups for sessions 80 and 81 yet, because those sessions started 2 weeks later, right? So everything is a 2 week later. I have not set up the study groups for those two sessions, but if you're in a 40, 41, 42, and 43, you should be able to see your study group, right? So I have my master list, and I'm gonna go ahead and compare it, and I'm gonna check, trust me, right? So let me go back here. This is personal area, and let's see, discover, and I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm just gonna open. I'm just trying to see if I can share it. Yes, you can, I think. See this? Save us. But very important, I have to keep in mind that it's using the data, right? I always need to share the data. If I share my visualization, I need to share the data that I used to build this visualization. Save as, right? And see this? I'm not gonna save it, but I'm just showing you that it's possible. Right? Cancel. I'm gonna cancel. But yes, it is possible to save a copy, right? Right, this is really nice. So that way I have a backup. Just in case if my group member makes change in error, I'm gonna have a copy. This is an excellent question, an excellent idea. Thank you. Yes. So, and in the display, dashboard has this capability. I'm not sure about the storybook. Storybook does not. I don't see it at least. Oh. Well, nope, that does not. There is no save as. There is save, but let's be optimistic. Let's hope they add this, right? Because as you may remember, every Friday night the system is down for the maintenance. And let's hope that on one of those Friday nights it gets added here. Yep. That would be a good change request, right? So let's go ahead, close this, and let me go back to the chat. I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to the chat now and see. Okay. And this one I already answered. So if you need to be able, Rebecca, you need to be able to see just your group, and what I'll do is, after this session, I'm gonna revisit. Yes, because, yeah, I'm gonna revisit all of the privileges. So this is very important to make sure that, yeah, I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm keeping an eye on all of the users and all of the admin rights, and who has admin rights and who has user rights, and the session that you need to be able to access. So, and I'll be able to figure out the access that you'll need, and I'll fix it. It's not a problem. I usually check my email and I respond as quick as I can. So, yeah. So yeah. Let's see what other questions we have. And yes, please let your group members know to make sure that they see their folder. Please do that because, yeah. Let's see what other questions we have. Let's see. Going once, going twice. Steve, is there anything that you would like to add to? Is there anything that I may have missed?
No, I think you've done a great job. This has been so helpful to walk through this. So just excellent, excellent. No, I think we have plenty of materials now. Again, the key, as it always is to find the time to spend with it and try some things. Make sure your group makes a good selection on your data set. You can see you want a data set that's robust. You also want a data set that will accommodate adding some Twitter aspects. So, if you pick a data set where you can easily go find something relatively relatable from Twitter, that certainly makes the job easier because that's part of the final assignment. So be sure and think carefully about the data set your group decides to use. We've mentioned a lot of places to get data sets. There's a lot of data sets, over 300 of them at the UCI. Those are good ones. Some of them are good ones. You want to make sure you look at them and make sure they have, again, I think the requirement is at least 1,000 cases, at least 12 inputs. That's a reasonable size data set for the final team assignment. And then, of course, I would pick one that has some aspect where you can right away or reasonably think of some Twitter input that might be enlightening or add some insights. So, the choice of a data set is very important, and the rest of the drill is to spend enough time trying some of the things Elena has showed you to be able to master that aspect along with what you've learned throughout the semester. So I think this is so helpful tonight. And it's been recorded, so we'll certainly make it available for everyone along with the slides. Thank you so much, Elena.